This episode, how to determine pricing for a job. In this episode, the Handyman Pros give some tips and resources to help you determine pricing levels for services. Stop giving away your services if you're a contractor, and stop expecting an outstanding service at an unreasonable price level. Welcome to the Handyman Pros radio show. Home improvement and maintenance tips from the pros. Thanks for listening to another edition of the Handyman Pros radio show, where our goal is to help save you time, money, and aggravation on your home maintenance and repair. This edition is entitled Determining Pricing. And to help me explain, I am here with my ever-cheerful co-host and old buddy, John.
Yes, sir.
Johnny, tell me a story, baby. Tell me a story.
Yeah, tell you a story. Yeah, we always kind of start off with something from the field, but, folks, we are active in this, so we're just not a couple of guys just looking through a magazine and regurgitating magazines. So it's this is real stuff here.
Yeah, we actually do this for a living, So.
Exactly, we actually do this. And I was just out at a place that I had to fix a screen door, and it's one of these screen doors. It's got like a big roller that goes into like this case on the right hand side of the door. So if the door opens on the left, it's on the right hand side, and you can take this thing and just slide it straight across onto it's got two tracks, top and bottom, and then it's got a big magnet on the other side. They're nice. The problem is that the track on the bottom kind of sticks up a little bit off the threshold of the door, which is a little bit of a trip hazard. And when these guys originally had put this thing in, they used real cheap screws. So you kick this thing a couple of times, you break the screws, and then it becomes a real trip hazard. So that was. And then
they call John to come fix it.
Yeah,
that's what they do.
I mean, it was, especially when people in there can't really move too well and they're on canes. So that was, I'm like, we got to fix this quick. So, that was just, it's one of those things where you're looking up and down. I kind of caught it myself. I was like, this thing's a real danger here, coming out the door, falling flat on your face onto the concrete stoop. But anyways, that's kind of what that's what I did this other day here. So got that all fixed up, and of course, how much do I owe you, right? So that always comes up, right, Larry?
It always comes up. Well, I mean, it always comes up at the end of the job, right? And we get the mix of different things, but we also read a lot of the blog posts and things that other handymen do and things like that. And forever we're out there seeing, what should I charge for this, or what should I charge for that? And then conversely, we have customers who are saying, wow, that seems really high for that particular job, or whatever it is. And so we've decided that we just wanted to have a quick discussion about pricing, and about what are the elements, I guess, basically, that go in to determine pricing, right? Like what are the things that determine how a contractor charges for pricing, and what are some of the resources that you have to determine, what are national averages, or some average, it can even be down to zip code. What does something cost in a particular area? Now, when we talk, I do want to predicate this. When we're talking about this, we're not talking about materials, we're talking about labor, because materials can be, and we've discussed this in other things, it can be cheap, or it can be the sky's the limit. And then we're coming out of COVID, so lumber prices have been theoretically artificially high. So we're not talking about that. And we're talking just about labor. Like, what do you want to do? How much do you think something should cost? So here at the Handyman Pros radio show, John, do we talk about value a lot?
Absolutely.
And does value come free?
Oh, no. We've talked about the triad. Of time, money, and outcome.
Yeah,
right?
Time, quality, price, right? And
right.
it's more than that. Folks, if you want a good handyman, he needs to be around, right? So he needs to make up some profit, right? He's got to make a little bit of money, or he's not going to stay around, right? I mean, it's just that simple. We all have expenses in business that we have to pay for. My tools, for example, didn't just show up there one day. Well, they did over 25 years, but They just didn't show up all at one day, and they don't continue to work just because I look at them, right? So there's expenses, right? So I just want to predicate that this is a business, and that our relationships with customers need to be a win-win, right? So either and you hear it a lot. It's very, very, kind of blasé that it, or not blasé, but it's very common to hear the win-win concept. But win-win needs to be, a contractor can't lose money on a job or he's not going to survive, right? And yet at the same time, he can't overcharge you or you're not going to survive. Now, there is that value concept. And so better value costs more money, right, John? Do you agree with that? If you get a better quality product or a better quality of skill level or any number of the things that go better, warranties, better timing, it gets back to the triad. Tell the triad, John. Tell us what the triad is.
Well, it's like 3 points on a triangle, right? And they're all in kind of opposition of each other. Is time, quality, and pricing. And so if you want something in a real hurry and you don't want to pay for it, well, something's going to suffer.
Okay? And that's probably
quality.
And that's quality, okay? Right?
Right. And if you're willing to extend the time frame that let's say, hey, instead of me rushing through a light bathroom remodel in a week and you give me 2 weeks to really do a nice job, quality is going to be up, but I'm going to charge you a little bit more for it. Everybody kind of gets this concept in their gut. So, you just have to expect that all these things can't be really in balance if you're one of those people that you want something right now and you want it cheap,
right? And you want high quality. You can get two, quality, but you can't get three, right?
Right. Exactly.
So that's part of it, and understand that if you're out there and you want something done today, it theoretically should cost you more money, because anybody that's really does a good job, especially currently, meaning here in 2021, if they're a good contractor, they are busy. I mean, crazy busy.
They're going to be busy, Larry. And and if I'm going to pull an emergency call, I mean, think of it this way, right? If I want it done right now, and I need it to be done right now, like I've got a busted pipe that's leaking, a plumber is going to charge you a surcharge, right?
Yes. It's
kind of an emergency thing. Hey, yes, I can be out there this afternoon, or I can be out there in an hour, but it's going to be this much.
Right.
So,
and that
you just have to be aware of.
Give the business concept behind that, John. Tell people why that is. Why is that?
Well, for me, it's I gotta shuffle my schedule around. Okay, for one thing, he might have a job. He's going to have to call somebody else up and say, hey, I got to delay installing a faucet for sake of argument today because I've got an emergency. Now he's going to make more money off of it, right then, but he might have to delay that.
Right.
Or he may have to get out of bed at 2 a.m.
Right.
And you know what? That's a charge, right? I'm charging for that. I'm not getting out of bed at 2 a.m. coming over somebody's house, to unclog a toilet, for the same amount I charge, if you were to wait till, tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock.
Correct. Yeah. So I just want people to understand that, right? Everything has its trade-offs and stuff.
Right.
So one other thing just to mention too is locality, right? So different things in different parts of the country, world, whatever you want to call it, things cost. There are places in the world where things cost less. It's just that simple. So we're talking in grand, terms. We're talking about basic terms, kind of all over the place. These things all apply. So with that said, John, what are some resources that can help you determine pricing for any job?
So back again, the premise of this episode really was to, we read a lot of things. We get asked a lot about it. What should I charge?
Right.
And that really so we kind of set the scheme here so that you have an expectation as the person out there that needs service, and then the expectation of somebody who's going to provide that service. And I, when I was first starting out doing this, I really didn't know what to expect. Okay. And but there are places that you can go to get a comfort level of what you should charge. Okay. Or what should be the norm. And it'll be a range. And I found there's places on the internet to go, and they have, really down to the zip code of, I need to install a ceiling fan. Okay. Well, in this zip code, it is a range of, let's say, $100 to $200 for sake of argument. I don't know what it is right now, but somewhere probably in that neighborhood. So no matter where, I kind of took comfort in that, right? Because no matter who's going to do it, unless it was their son-in-law or something, right? But if you're going to just they were going to pick up the phone and start to call people, that price is going to fall within that range. So that's a good starting point. So if to me, if you're out there and you say, what should I charge for this? Now, we've gone through quoting an estimate on a different episode, okay? But I'm just using something like this as a hard, for the sake of argument. And that should give you a good indication of what to charge for. But you can also search on there for other things. Like if I have to replace, a flooring, you're gonna get a pretty good idea how much that's going to cost for labor.
Yeah, and then at that point, as a contractor, you determine whether you want to do it for that rate or not. But there's other things that go into that thing. We always talk about value. Like for example, my work all comes with a warranty. Depends on the job, but I give a warranty and I come back, but I charge a little extra for that. I don't do it intentionally, but I fall on the higher end of the price spectrum, and I do that so that I don't have a problem. In customer has a problem, I just show up and fix the problem, and then I'm back on that win-win. Yes, I've made a little extra money, but if something goes wrong, and it's not, and if you do enough of any given job, something goes wrong sometimes. So you just want to go back and fix it because I want my customers happy. That's that at the end of the day. But there's tremendous resources, right? First thing, Google it. Just Google it. Look at how much does it cost to replace a ceiling fan in XYZ zip code, right? You're going to get an answer out of that. It's going to be a range, right? And go do that. Pick the phone up and call up 5 suppliers of doing that kind of thing. You'll get answers, right? Ask down at the Ace Hardware when you're in there. They'll give you an answer. You might be all over the place. Ask, I don't know, your neighbor. Don't assume it's cheap either, by the way. This is kind of one of my favorite things, Johnny. Remember when we got that call from the guy that had the shed? And I had just installed my own shed like what he was talking about. And if you'll remember, we gave him a quote that was like almost double of what the shed cost, and he thought we were ripping him off, and he had a guy that was going to do it. And, 3 days later, his shed fell down because it was the guy he had doing it didn't read the instructions, and it was on a grade, and, and it needed to be level, and blah, blah, blah. And just because you buy something at a low price, IKEA furniture, not picking on IKEA, IKEA is not the greatest example. Flat box furniture that you buy at other sources besides IKEA, because IKEA stuff is actually kind of okay. But some of the really inexpensive kind of flat box storage units, bookcases and stuff like that, there's 10 million little parts. It takes forever to put that stuff together.
Yeah, that's a great point, because that's just the start of the project.
Yeah,
so buying it is just a start. It's like anything else. It's the labor that goes into putting it together, and that goes for the flat box things like you're just talking about, swing sets. Yep. Those sheds that you were talking about. Those big plastic sheds, they got 10,000 different bolts and nuts and screws and everything.
And they weigh a ton.
Yeah.
Somebody's
going to have to do that.
Yeah. And the ground needs to be level in that example. Don't set it up on a hill. You'll have problems. It's like, how do you create your own problems, Anyway, we just wanted to throw some of these resources out there. John, which one do you use a lot? There's one you use in particular.
I use Home Advisor.
Yeah.
I always just bounce off. I'll Google it. Google will probably, bring up Home Advisor on a thing. But, if you go into something like that, it'll ask for the zip code. And of course, Home Advisor has their own database and resources for all these people that sign up for Home Advisor, right? Because Home Advisor is kind of a central hub to provide these things, but they know what generally the market bears for these different things. So once again, if you do that by zip code, you're going to get very, very close. Now, for some of you folks that are starting off in the handyman business, you might want to be at the lower end to be low, kind of the strategy for a low market entry, right?
Right.
Marketing terms.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
You might want to do that. Somebody who's very experienced, and I feel very experienced in many areas, and I don't in some others, but I do. Hey, if you want a great job, then I'm the guy, and I'll be happy to do it. But here's my price. And it's up to you. And we've done all these other shows about helping prospects to understand your value and things like that. But that's kind of my 2 cents on it. But Larry, to answer your point, yeah, I use a website called Home Advisor.
Yep, and it's basically a place to start, and it gets to zip code, so you get a really good idea of what theoretically something should cost. Now, I do want to make one statement on, we're going to call them specialty projects, right? I mean, if you have something that's kind of off the beaten path, I don't know, like installing a zip line. Now, I don't think you're going to find that per zip code, because I don't know how many people install zip lines. And of course, I'll say that and I'll get some response back. Well, there's 40 different, responses on how to build a zip line. But there's a whole lot of engineering and stuff that goes into that, and it's not as simple as it seems. It's not just a simple, put up project. But it gives you an idea. If you're doing specialty work, then you got to break it down. You got to kind of think about it. What's your anticipated time? What's your anticipated liability? I'm talking to contractors right now, mostly. But even as a homeowner, you need to be thinking about nobody's ever done this, or this is a very specific project. I need a little bridge built over my stream. That's not as simple as it seems, because there's a million variables that go into that, right? And so those are projects that are hard to get generalizations on, right, John? So,
and I will say one last thing, and that is, we've talked about this before, and that's kind of, then it becomes more of it would become more of an hourly type of thing.
Right.
If you go in and you search Google for handyman hourly rates in your area, in your zip code, you're going to get a very accurate, indication of what other people are charging. Okay. Some of the big handyman services, some of the contractors, you'll get that, and you'll see the range on this stuff, and it's eye opening. So you can place yourself within that range.
And with that, John? With that, Larry, I think the spaceship is is coming to take me away. John, there was a song about that. There was a song about that. They're coming to take me away, ha. Yeah. As we always end the show, the spaceship is landed. Do we look at it, or do we take it apart? Folks, we appreciate you listening to the Handyman Pros radio show. If you please would, tell your friends and neighbors and your drinking buddies down at the bar and your attorney and your hairstylist. Tell your hairstylist, actually, that you like listening to the Handyman Pros radio show. We would really appreciate that. If you do have any questions, comments, or concerns, send us an email. That's questions@handymanprosradioshow.com, or you can join our Facebook group at Handyman Pros. We did update our website, so if you would go to handymanprosradioshow.com and take a look at that. We've got all the shows now really come up and look really, really great. And with that, John, thanks for listening, folks. We'll see you next week on the Handyman Pros radio show.